Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday.
Hey there. We're back.
Yeah, we're back. Today we're going to talk about healthy relationships. So today we're going to talk about what is a healthy relationship. We're going to talk about why your life hasn't measured up to your dreams. So like maybe you've thought you wanted healthy relationships in the past, but you haven't actually experienced any of those things. The true possibilities for a life filled with love and happiness. So what your life can actually look like if you actually do decide to make yourself a priority and start creating the life that you want. And then what can you do? What are the steps to take? So we like to make sure that you have steps as well. So who's ready to dive in?
Yeah, this is exciting too, and I think it should be eye-opening.
Dive in if you're ready.
And inspiring, because again, we have a lot in common, right? All of us in this group, we have this commonality of codependency in relationships, unhappiness, and it's kind of what brought us all together. But because of that, I think we don't talk enough about the big picture and about what doing this work is ultimately going to lead to. And again, we just share from our own experience. We've been there too. We've been through the hell and back and found each other and created something great. So we want to kind of focus on our perspective and share some of what we've found to really be key attributes of healthy relationships, the kind of relationship we all really want.
And I see if you dive in, so if you're just coming on, make sure you write in dive in, get us all excited. And as always, if you're watching this as a replay, don't worry, you can always tag us and David or I will respond to any tags that you have us in. We don't want you to miss out if you were not able to watch it live. So
yeah, if you're not on live, still feel free to interact and comment as you go along. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we do go backwards. So a lot of people are ready to dive in and get started. So just so you know, this is going to be about 45 minutes. I was doing 30 minutes for the past few weeks, but I feel like this is going to be like a big topic. There's a lot of people that are going to have a lot of questions about this topic, because when I talk to clients before we start actually working with them, one of the questions that I ask them is about what would a healthy relationship look like for you? And I think that is the question that stumps people. Like every single time, that is what stumps them, is that they've never experienced a healthy relationship. They don't know what one looks like, and they don't know how to create it. So, and I get that, because my experience when I was younger was to not be around healthy relationships, so I never knew what it was like. So, you kind of need that college course, which is something that we offer. Like you take the course to find out how you do it, and then you're actually able to implement it. So, we're going to jump in and start talking about it. I think one of the most important things that is part of a healthy relationship is communication.
You don't say.
Communication is one of those things that I put that number one, first and foremost. Communicate until it's like ad nauseum. Like you're like, so much communication. Am I saying too much? I think that in a healthy relationship, there's really no such thing as too much communication.
I don't think so either. And, it's foundational for mutual understanding and creating a safe space, because you know that nothing's held back. The truth will come out. Now, it takes practice, obviously, to understand one another's communication style, and some effort sometimes within ourselves, because very often we assume that other people understand what we mean, and we don't realize that there are opportunities for us to change how we communicate to better connect with the other person. So I don't think it's an exact science per se, but a willingness and an interest in communicating with the other person is going to help put everything out there, and it eliminates the stress and anxiety that comes along with do they understand what I mean? Am I missing something? Are they holding back? That sort of thing. So
yeah, I mean, they're really the ability to communicate effectively, to say what's on your mind, to be assertive in your communication, and to be comfortable and be able to feel vulnerable in being able to share what your wants and needs are is really important. And you get more and more connected and just more and more supportive of each other when you are both communicating. So I think that that's really important. And when it comes to communication too, it kind of goes with equity as well in the relationship. Now, that doesn't always mean that it's 50-50 in a relationship. Sometimes when David was sick, it was definitely more like 80-20,
More than that.
Yeah. And so like where I was fighting for him and helping him when he couldn't really have a voice. But, I think that there is that back and forth. There's this natural back and forth in a healthy relationship where sometimes one person needs a little bit more, and then another time somebody else needs a little bit more. But there's no tit for tat. It's not like, well, you owe me because I did something extra for you. There really is that sense of, a partnership.
Yeah, equity speaks to fairness, and I've gotten in trouble in the past of engaging in that sort of emotional economy where you're so self-conscious and distrustful that you're more concerned with like, okay, if I give, what am I going to get in return? Mm-hmm. And there's this kind of push-pull. So, by contrast, one of the aspects of our relationship and what we feel a healthy relationship ought to have is, we talk about like, oh, relationships should be 50-50. And then, okay, sometimes one person gives more, the other person, receives more, whatever the case is. I think there's a fundamental mindset that mm-hmm. speaks not to like, how much am I getting, but how much can I give? And, percentages and stuff like that, it's semantics, but I think the general idea is that if we focus more on what we can give, then it doesn't have to be a 50-50. You might each decide that you want to give 60-60 or 70-70. And by doing that, you both experience abundance. You don't have to get into that space where you feel like you're lacking and the other person isn't giving enough.
So now I didn't get to read what some of the people are writing in there, the comments, but I want to make sure that everyone keeps in focus. We are talking about healthy relationships. So for a lot of you, you're already going towards the negative. And what David always says, what we always say when we work with clients is what you focus on is what's going to happen. So if you're focusing on the negative, then more negative is going to come about. So we want to really have you focus right now. We're focusing what are the positive things about a healthy relationship. So we're going to focus on the positives. We're not going to focus on the negative stuff, which every single one of you who's watching has experienced. So we want to go in the positive direction. The next thing for a healthy relationship is commitment. Now, you don't have a committed relationship and then all of a sudden someone, 2 years in is like, well, I think it really would be cool if we started to see other people. Let's open up our marriage and, do something else. Now, if that's a conversation you both have together, that, could be something. But the reality is that you don't get to change your mind after you've committed to each other and now do something completely different.
Well, for me, redefining what commitment is was really important in terms of attracting and keeping my ideal partner. Mm-hmm. And it was an interesting thing for me because, quick story, I think back to when you and I were first dating, and I realized that there was something amazing happening here. Well, there's something that, and I had done the work beforehand, for the most part, to really unload that emotional baggage, become emotionally self-reliant, so I wasn't entering into relationships with a sense of neediness. But there was a point when I realized that my definition of commitment was going to change. And what it ultimately was a willingness to cut off all other possibilities. And there's a distinction I make between interest and commitment. So commitment is a willingness to let everything go, including my desires to be with Steph. So I literally had to let everything go and even though, accept the possibility that we might not ultimately wind up together. But I was committed to showing up authentically, being myself, mm-hmm. and coming from that place of giving. And it was a big factor.
And not be controlling. A lot of us that have been in toxic relationships, we've been someone that has attempted to control us in some way, shape, or form. And a healthy relationship is not about control. I mean, there might be things that I totally think I do way better or know better how to do than David, but I don't get to do that. I don't get to make that decision for David and control what he does. That's not fair and it's not healthy. So, being able to let that go and allow the other person to be who they are without trying to fix them or mold them into someone that you want. And again, we don't necessarily mean to do that, but as codependents, there's that subconscious level that we go in that direction of trying to control and fix and manipulate. And, and again, we don't mean to. Another thing is trust. If David goes out with his friends, I'm not worried he's going to be out talking to other women, trying to get other people's phone numbers. There is a respect, a trust there. In fact, with David, I would laugh because if I would go meet up his friends, they would say to me, "Oh my gosh, we finally get to meet Stephanie. All he does is talk about how amazing you are when you're not around." And, it's kind of nice to hear, but it just has that. I mean, that's what I do about him. I don't ever have to worry that he's off bad-mouthing me to someone. And I'm not doing that about him either. If him and I have a problem, an issue to discuss, we discuss it together. there's no concern about him going off and saying bad things about me, being someone different when I'm not around. And, I think a lot of people, that's something that we get concerned about. I mean, who are they when I'm not around? So we get that fear whenever they leave, that, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And, that's not part of what a healthy relationship is.
Yeah, trust is a big thing. And I think it ties into a sense of safety for me. And what we're talking about here, again, is the aspects of a healthy relationship. For me, a healthy relationship with Stephanie, I feel safe. I don't have any concerns. And we talked before about commitment. I trust her with my life, and I would also give my life for her.
And literally, I mean, again, you were in the hospital.
Well,
I was speaking up for your life.
Get into that, but I mean that's absolutely true.
But when you're in a committed relationship, at some point, something like that can happen. So to have someone that you truly give your life to would put them in their hands.
Yeah, and trust is invaluable in a relationship. Anytime you don't have that, it's just like a constant gnawing in the back of your mind. It just really undermines the quality of a relationship. So I trust Steph implicitly, and I feel safe. I know that I can speak what's on my mind. I can, just show up authentically, warts and all, and know that while she may have strong opinions and preferences, she's always going to be honest with me. She doesn't sugarcoat things. But there's an understanding that we each are committed to a higher good, not just about what we can get out of the relationship, but what we can give and what we can create with this. So with me, trust and safety kind of go hand in hand.
And that goes into the next thing of vulnerability. In my past relationships, I was afraid to be vulnerable. I didn't want to show who I really was, because if I did, that was going to be used against me. I was going to be treated probably unfairly, poorly, because I allowed myself to be vulnerable. So I kind of had that wall up against vulnerability.
Right, you're worried about getting judged.
Yes. And in a real healthy relationship, that vulnerability, that's part of what a relationship is the ability to, it's to take off the mask, take off whatever the rest of the world sees, and really be your authentic self, and be able to be in your full glory with the other person, bringing out the best in each other. And you do that when you are vulnerable.
Yeah, and it's one of the biggest things that strengthens a relationship. When you're able to really show your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, and the other person responds with non-judgment, with unconditional caring and compassion, and not trying to save you or protect you or anything like that, but really just care and nurture, and sometimes just be there. Be there to hold a supportive space. There's really nothing like that. And again, this is what, for me, helps any lingering stress and anxiety just melt away. Because so often we're in that constant fight or flight mode because we feel like we have to keep up, this protective barrier. When you can bring that barrier down with your loved one, with your partner, it's really refreshing. And it strengthens the relationship. And again, I think that ties into trust as well, like you said.
Yeah. The next thing is affection. There needs to be, if you're going to have some kind of real romantic relationship, it's not just a friendship. There has to be affection. Giving each other a pat. We have 2 young children, and sometimes they can be a little bit much. But being able to walk by each other and give each other the look of did you see what that one just did? Or some of the crazy things that they've done, and to be able to kind of laugh and have fun with it. I think that's really big, is to be able to just have that kind of safety and support with your best friend, and have that affection, be able to have that actual connection, whether, the sexual connection. A lot of people I talk to, they'll say, I either have the sexual connection or I have the friendship. And what people don't really understand is that, and if you learn one thing right now, is a healthy relationship is having a best friend that you get to have sex with.
And let's clarify, this is not a friends with benefits kind of thing.
Yes.
And it requires, I think, a little context in examining what a best friend really is. Because it's not just a casual thing at all.
My best friends, and I don't know, guys, I don't know, but I'm talking from girls here. my girls, like my best friends, I mean, we moved to Texas to be closer to my best friends since 7th grade. Like there is a connection. We don't argue, we discuss things. A deep emotional connection where, again, I can be completely authentic. I can be myself. I can, I don't have to worry about her judgment. None of those things. She loves me genuinely for who I am. And, there's no expectations other than she wants to be a part of my life. I want to be a part of her life. And that's really what we need to be striving for. If you're in a relationship, it's no fun. It's like, you're always stressed out and you can't talk to each other. And what is that? It's just, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But, I think that that's one of the things, if you can only think of one thing, remember it's that best friend, that type of deep connection with someone that you get to be sexual with. And now sexual is different for everybody. I don't want anyone to think that if they like to have sex every day, or they like to have sex once a week, or if they, every other week, or, once a month, whatever that is, finding a partner that is compatible with that. Because, you don't want to be made to feel badly that, your sexual appetite is not enough. It's too much. Having that similar kind of attraction to each other and that sexual appetite is important to at least talk about as you are, getting to know the other person.
Yeah, and you talk, about affection, and I think that also breeds a connection where, the two partners get to understand each other, understand our love languages, how we express ourselves and our affection for one another. Mm-hmm. So, and it's a topic for another, talk, maybe the different love languages and what have you. A lot of people are familiar with that. But when you're in a relationship, a deeply committed, loving relationship, there are a lot of different aspects and qualities to love, but, and it's not just all emotional or intellectual or sexual. It's sort of a, combination. But affection can be like the quick, touch of the hand as we pass in the hallway during the midst of, craziness at home. Mm-hmm. Or it can be a look, it can be a smile. Mm-hmm. It can be that, the making coffee for one another in the morning. Like mm-hmm. It can be any one of a myriad of different things, and that's one of the things that's beautiful mm-hmm. About the best type of relationship. You can express yourself, and you have a genuine caring for the other person. You get to know how they like to be loved, and you adapt to show them in the way that's most significant for them. Right. Again, it's more about giving. It's not just like affection. Say, hey, I'm flirting because I want to, get some booty. You're actually like putting yourself out there mm-hmm. And giving to the other person, expressing your fondness for them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So how's everyone liking this so far? I think there's a lot of really great information. I think even just to that point, and of course we could spend days on this one, but to give you kind of like a little snapshot of what that looks like. Are you getting a lot of value? Write value if this has been valuable so far. We still got a lot to cover. We're going to try to get in as much as we possibly can in the little bit of time we have left. So if you like so far, write value, and we're going to keep going. So
yeah, and just to kind of wrap up that piece, for me, a healthy relationship, the type of relationship we have, is life affirming. It's life flourishing. There's no aspect of the relationship where I meet it and I feel depleted. I have a sense of freedom, mm-hmm. To be myself. Is that a fair segue into the?
Yeah, well, not yet. We're getting there. I promise we're getting there. So yes. The next thing that we're going to talk about is why your life hasn't measured up to your dreams. And so I think that is another important part to talk about is, we have this idea of how life is going to be, and then there's how life actually is. So the first question that I have for you is, what vision did you have for your life? And, a lot of us girls, we were, trained on watching Disney movies and, maybe having this hope for this, these beautiful romantic fairy tale types of weddings. And, is that actually what happens? Is that what happened for you? The chances are pretty good that that's not, that's not what a lot of people have experienced. So, the next question, like, so how did you end up? How is it for you right now? And think about it, think about how it is. Are you feeling all these great feelings of a healthy, committed relationship, or are you feeling something else? And so, the next part of that whole thing is what I've seen a lot of times is that people have this idea of what they want their life to be. And then they do something completely different from what will get them to that place, to get them to that goal. So I actually just had a conversation with someone today, and we were talking about, she actually, she was working with me one-on-one now after our conversation. And, she was like, well, I got all these things coming up. I'm going to be ending this relationship. I'm going to be getting a new place. I'm going to be kicking my son out. I'm going to be doing all these things. I don't think I'm going to have a time for a coach until I do all of those things. And I said, oh, wow, really? She was like, yeah. I said, no, right now when you're doing all of those things is when you need me. That's when you need a coach. All of these big, huge life things. And the example I gave her was, I had a friend of mine, and she kept saying that she was like 10, 15 pounds overweight. And I said, why don't you come with me to the gym? And she's like, well, I don't want to go to the gym looking like this. I want to lose 10 pounds so I can look cute in my gym clothes. And then I'm going to go to the gym. Now she's about 50 pounds overweight, and she has still not gone to the gym. So the point to that is, if you decide to do something, you've got to actually start making the steps to actually do the thing that you're saying you want to do. If not, you're just blowing smoke. Like, you're not actually creating the life that you want. Like, you might want this life, but if you're not actually taking the steps to do them, you're not actually living that life.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to what I was talking about before in terms of the difference between commitment and interest. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I bet if we did a poll in this group, a lot of people would say, oh yeah, I want ABC, XYZ, the fairy tale, right? Mm-hmm. But part of the reason people don't achieve that is because they don't believe they have the power to help create that. They actually have more doubt and lack of trust in themselves that keeps them in the box of the known, of the comfortable. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to achieve big things in life, you can't just be interested in them. You really can't. And the thing that I found, from the spiritual aspect of it, is the universe actually supports when you make a decision. And a decision, the definition of that is to cut off all other possibilities. Mm-hmm. So, it starts with, do you have a dream that's big enough? But it continues on with, are you committed to doing whatever it takes for your dreams to become a reality?
Yeah, and that's really important, is to keep that in the back of your mind. There's what we're doing to get us to this point. Now, so whatever you've done up until this point has gotten you here. You've got to make a decision to do something different to get somewhere else.
That's just it. People don't make the changes because they're afraid of change, and they may just be so comfortable, and again, filled with self-doubt. I haven't been able to figure this out. I'll probably never be able to figure it out on my own. Let me just keep going through the motions, and hopefully I'll be okay with being comfortable, right? With settling. I'll tell you right now, I didn't want to be the kind of person who, on my deathbed, looking back, being like, oh, well, it was good enough. Mm-hmm. Better to burn out brightly than fade away, as they say.
Well, and think about it again. Think about this for yourself. So, you have these values, monogamy, trust, maybe spirituality, maybe adventure, whatever those things are. And those are your values. Those are the things that you hold dear. And then you're in a relationship where someone is cheating on you, where they don't come home for 2 days, where they're abusing drugs, where, they squash your dreams. That's the opposite of what your values are. So you have these values. These are things that you hold dear, but you're allowing someone else to stomp all over them like grapes, bacon wine. And this is not the good wine. This is the stuff that is really toxic, bitter.
That's vinegar.
Yeah, it's bitter and vinegar. So we want to look at, why is it that you want to do these things? And I think that really, again, people that I talk to before they become clients will say, well, I don't really know what a healthy relationship is. And they don't really know what that looks like. Why would I want a healthy relationship? So I think that this part is really, this is the part to really stay in for and listen up to, because this is the part where there is a really important reason why you want to have that healthy relationship with yourself first. And then you want to have that healthy relationship with another person. And there's a bunch of different really good reasons of why that's so important. So one of the first ones is less stress. How many of you are stressed out? You're not sleeping at night. You are just constantly thinking about the person that you're trying to be in a relationship with. You're trying to prove your worth. You're thinking about it. You're talking about it. maybe you've stopped talking about it because you're just embarrassed and you don't want to talk about it anymore. You've got all this guilt and shame and all these different things, and your stress levels are through the roof. Your cortisol levels are through the roof. And when your body is at that kind of level for so long, it's very detrimental to your health.
100%.
That looked like you're going to jump in. So, that increased stress. And when you are having that increased stress, you can't think as clearly. Your clarity is not there. When I was in when I was in a toxic relationship, I was so not creative. I couldn't be creative because all of that extra energy was being used up to deal with the unhealthy partner. But once you actually have that freedom to take that energy and now put it towards something else, you're able to put it into yourself. You're able to put in all the great things that you were put on this earth to do.
That's true. It's huge, and one of the great things about a healthy relationship is it's a space, a forum, a connection that you can go to relieve stress.
Yes.
and not
Yes.
just to vent and unload like bleh on the other person, but actually get your batteries recharged because you again came together with a commitment to a higher vision that is bigger than any of the day-to-day problems that you might come across.
If you're constantly worried that someone's going to curse you out because they don't like what you said, imagine that kind of stress. Now imagine every day like you come home and you have that battery recharge where your home is your safe place.
Yeah.
Where you get to go home to be safe and comforted. And
it actually has the feeling of coming home.
Yes.
Where
yes.
you have that comfort, that
Safety,
excitement,
yeah.
the feeling of warmth and
knowing that things are going to be like better, because there's a lot of craziness going on. So to be, me being trapped in, for COVID quarantine with David I couldn't imagine being trapped with anybody else. Like he's my best friend and I love spending time with him doing this. I'm like, ooh, we get to spend more time together. But you've got to have that kind of that level of commitment to each other and the ability to hear each other and all those other things. And it causes you less stress. So it's comforting. And that brings us into the next thing of better healing and less health issues. I was in my 30s with polycystic ovarian syndrome. I had a failing thyroid. My back was hurting all the time. I had Raynaud's. So the tips of my fingers would go numb. They'd turn all white. They'd get cold. I'd get migraines. I had all these things. My right leg would give out sometimes as I was walking because my back was so inflamed. And so all of those things that I was living with those things. And, in my early 30s, and now I'm 42 and I don't have those problems. I don't get sick. I remember at times being sick for over a month. Like I just wasn't getting any better. And the reason for that is because when your adrenaline is being secreted so highly for so long, you're actually you're decreasing your vitamin stores, which makes you more prone to illnesses, but you're also increasing your chances of heart attack, stroke, diabetes. You name it, stress is the number one killer in the United States. And so, all of those things are just going to add to your health issues. And let's say you do have surgery, you have, a health issue. You have someone to be supportive and you feel good to go home to. David couldn't wait to come home to us, to be healed, to be taken care of. Where if someone is in an unhealthy relationship, they're just going to want to kind of stay in the hospital and you don't get the same kind of care from people that don't care about you as people that do.
Yeah, a healthy relationship is going to encourage you to be healthier. Both, like Steph said, with the decrease in chronic stress, you actually have positive, life-affirming chemicals flooding your body when you're in growth mode, when you feel safe. Not to mention the other aspect of it. Again, having someone in your corner who's going to fight for you. We joke about it, but the visual of the female lead character in Avatar, crouching over Jake Sully, right?
Yeah,
and hissing to protect. She's a mama bear when it comes down to it. And it was really, it was huge for me because, again, I won't get too far into the story, but over the last 2-3 weeks, it's been a really difficult and often a really dark time for me when I was facing my mortality in the hospital and had to undergo emergency surgery. And there were times where it was dark, where I was just drained physically, mentally, emotionally drained, had no energy, could barely even speak at certain times. And Steph was my voice. She was my advocate. She was tenacious and made sure that I was spoken for, that she was able to speak for me. And you can't even really put a price on that, because, I think there comes a time in all of our lives where we're going to need someone to lean on. And having Steph in my life, having someone who's there for me, to fight for me, and who believes in me so much that she's willing to go toe to toe with whoever has what to say about it.
And
to
I
make
did.
sure,
I did.
Yeah, to make sure she made some friends, and probably some people who are glad that they don't have to see her anymore. But yeah, that's so huge. So yeah, a lot of health benefits to being in a healthy relationship.
Well, and also, to have, healthier behaviors for yourself now is where it's like, okay, there's a reason to live for, people, again, today on a call with a client where someone said, it's hard for me to even get up out of bed some days. I just don't have a reason to get up. Well, when you're in this type of healthy relationship, even if you're kind of stressed that day, you're having a hard time, you do it for each other sometimes. You might get into those moments because life will bring us a whole variety of things, and to be supportive during the good times and also supportive during the difficult times, to really feel comfortable and safe in those times.
Yeah, it seems to me almost better to not be in a relationship than to be into one that just adds to your stress.
Too much stress already. We don't need anything that's going to add.
And again, we're not even talking about like the negative aspects of being in an unhealthy relationship that maybe drives you to drinking or drugs or other unhealthy ways to cope and distract yourself. Like it really just compounds, being in an unhealthy relationship not only sucks in and of itself, but it's going to make you more unhealthy, and it's going to damage you potentially for the future.
It's a spiral.
Where on the other hand, a healthy relationship is one where you each bring out the best in one another. You lay the groundwork so that each can thrive and flourish. You're there to help them, support them, maybe be their rock when they're wavering, and really just contribute overall to the health. So
another thing is being able to be supported to go after your big dreams. I just remember with my ex-husband kind of belittling me for having big goals, for having big dreams, trying to tear me down because I had big hopes for other things other than just sitting on the couch watching television and going to my regular job and his regular job that he complained about all the time. I had a bigger vision. I had something more that I wanted for myself. And, being able to be comfortable in me, because all of these healthy relationships start with you being healthy. So I want to keep reminding you of that. You got to start with healthy you, then you will attract healthy other. But you got to start with healthy you. And so like when I got healthy for me and I was able to, start doing the right work on myself and then attract someone, like David, and, for him to come around and be so supportive. The amount of times where I was like, well, you got to stay with the kids and I'm going to go to a talk, or I'm going to go, drive somewhere with friends, whatever it was, for him to be supportive. I was like, I had our baby, Sophie, and I was like, hey, by the way, I'm going to go do a half marathon in Colorado. And he was like, oh, okay. And of course, that was a whole other conversation. But the big thing was, I will always support you. Just tell me what's going on and I will be a support for you. And, in the past, that had not been the case. I would have been in trouble for trying to, do something like that. I would have been made fun of or torn down for that.
No, and this actually started very early on. In fact, one of the very first conversations we had was about our dreams of pursuing our passion for what we do in terms of helping others, right? The coaching, the healing work, for being, our dreams of being self-sufficient, being able to work for ourselves, call the shots, work with who we want to work with, and really begin to build a legacy and the foundation for a really joyful, abundant, adventurous life. It was among our first conversations, and actually, I think you looked back at my profile. Like, I read your profile again. Like, you should definitely check out my website because I'm doing this, and this. And this is
I just started
5 years ago at this point, where she was just starting out the company, and and I looked at it, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Like, I've always wanted to be in business for myself and and help people. And I've always kind of, and I don't think I came out with it at that point, but I had always sort of had a dream of having the husband and wife team who were really, you know, synced up. And doing amazing things, but it was like,
and you can tell just by listening to us, like we get excited about those things, and that's the kind of thing that you want in a healthy relationship, is for you both get excited about that stuff.
Yeah, there's none of that ego battle. You know, I mean, there's no need to tear one another down. And again, luckily, I mean, there is that chemistry, there is that compatibility where we have common interests. So of course that makes it much easier to collaborate. But I mean, even early on, before we understood one another's vision, you know, I remember you invited me to that business conference that our friend was speaking at. You said, "Oh, I've been looking forward to this. It's all around the country, but it's finally coming local."
We were planning to do something
together,
else. Yeah.
like, for, you know, I mean, we'd only been seeing one another for a handful of days, weeks at that point. And I was like, heck yeah, like that sounds cool. I don't know what it's all about, but it's about business and self-improvement, stuff like that.
Let's
cool.
do it.
Like, you know, what an awesome date. Like when your dates early on are, you know, stuff like that, where you can actually
Are real.
They're real, and you're doing something that is bigger than yourself, something to better yourself. And it wasn't typical. You know, it wasn't like really anything else I had experienced before. And it's what I wanted. It's what I was looking for.
And that kind of goes into a whole bunch of like other things in that, is that, you know, making more money at a job that you love, you know, not settling for a job that you don't like, because, you know, a lot of times these toxic relationships will keep us stuck, you know, in jobs that we don't want to be at. You know, we're like, well, I got to work for this job and I don't like it and I don't like the people there. And, you know, like when you have that self-esteem and you're able to feel supported and feel good, then you're able to go for those different types of jobs, go a little bit out of your comfort zone, get inspired. You know, I had really not been with anyone before that inspired me like David did and does. You know, it was like one of those things where it was like, he was getting excited about things, which got me excited about things, and then we would kind of feed off of each other. So that the inspiring of each other is really helpful. And it also helps you find meaning, you know, for your life, to be able to come together and find meaning for your life, to find that purpose. Having a supportive partner helps you find that purpose. You know, when I was in a toxic relationship, I wasn't able to live my purpose. My purpose was to help other people get out of unhealthy relationships. I needed to do some work on myself. There was stuff that I needed to do. I had all these qualities of things that I could give and help people with, but I couldn't do them before. And so, you know, with David, it was like, oh, this is what you want to do? Cool. I want to support that. I want to help you. I want to see you succeed at that. And that gives you that purpose and meaning and makes you feel significant.
Yeah, and those other aspects of your life. I mean, you talk about being stuck in a crummy job as sort of a side effect of that. You know, you've heard the expression, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if you're settling in one area of life, relationships, for example, it may very well just come naturally. Oh, okay, well, my job adds, you know, that's probably the best it's going to be. You don't really try for more, you know, and a healthy relationship, a good partner is going to provide more energy for you to shift, to up level. You know, and they're going to encourage you not to settle. I mean, there was another great guy that Steph was dating when she and I were first dating, and we're sort of like, it was almost like we were trying to, you know, outdo the other in terms of chivalry. Like, it's like, no, I mean, really, like, whatever's best for you, whatever's
That's
best
true.
for you, even if it means that I got to bow out. You know, and again, that's a big aspect of it, being able to put the other person before yourself, to care about, recognize, honor, and support their dreams and their goals, independent of your own, you know, needs.
And the feeling of significance in having someone that understands you, finding your person. You know, David understands me in a way that nobody else does. You know, we can call each other out on our BS in a healthy, productive, supportive way, coming from love and respect. And, you know, we bring out the better of ourselves, the better of each other by being in this relationship. So having that kind of significance and that kind of like just connection to another human being that's different, where, you know, I never felt like I know we've talked about this before, neither one of us ever felt like we were part of a group. We were never like the cool kids, or definitely not the cool kids at all.
No.
But, you know, we never really were a part of any of those things. And to find each other And, once we stopped settling for the wrong people and we found each other, then we really found our people. And then other of our people started getting more attracted to us. I mean, and look, here our group has 10,000 people.
Yeah.
that definitely says
That's
something.
huge. Yeah. And you build a momentum. Things don't ever stay the same. They're changing, and they're either going to get better or they're going to get worse. And you can build momentum. And again, being that we're here because we recognize how important relationships are to a happy, fulfilling life. This is something that can become central in your life, and it has been for me. Now, family is everything. A few short years ago, I was single, carefree, doing my thing, not really a care in the world. No one besides myself to be responsible for. Now I have at least 3 people who I would unquestionably lay my life down for. My wife and our 2 beautiful kids. And I mean, now it's changed me. It's changed me completely. And again, I was like a pretty good guy before, but Steph has definitely brought out the best in me.
And that's an important piece is when you have children, even if you've had children with someone who's not healthy. I don't want you to think like, I've had children already with somebody else, they're not healthy, it's too late for them and too late for me. But to have a healthy role model, to make the choice right now that if you are in that unhealthy relationship, to say, hey, I want to be the healthy role model for my child. I don't want to pass this along to them, these unhealthy patterns. I want the person who's in their life most of the time to also be a healthy role model. I know that for David, again, I completely trust and respect his ability to talk to our kids and reprimand and all of that, and that's really important, is to have that role model. And to talk about having our kids, even if we disagree, somebody said the other day, like, well, how do you guys fight? I don't really like the word fight. I like, disagree, have a conversation about, talk about, like, sometimes we get a little snippy with each other. It's not, that does happen.
When you're passionate about things,
But there's still a respect. He's never cursed at me. He would never threaten me. None of those things. And those, some of you might think, well, that happens, or that's basic, but I mean, it should be basic. It should be those, that kind of comfort, because you're a role model to your children, and you're also respectful of each other. And name calling and fighting, I really just don't like that word fighting. It sounds physical. And the last important thing with this topic is Harvard studies have shown over and over again that a healthy relationship, having a community. So even if you're old and your significant other passes away and you've got just a community of people, having healthy relationships is more important than exercise, eating healthy, your drinking habits, all of those kinds of things. The most important thing for longevity is to have healthy relationships. So creating that now, so that you have those healthy relationships going forward, your life is actually going to be longer, and you're going to be excited about your life being longer. Not like some people,
when you think about it.
Yeah, some people were like, well, the last thing I want is my life to be longer. And when I was in a toxic relationship, having my life last any longer than it was sounded like torture. Now it's like, I want to be as healthy as I can for as long as I can, because this is fun. I have that joy every day and all of that excitement. So, the last part of this is what you can do now. And, this is the thing that I think is, after everything that we just talked about, this is the thing that's really, really important for you to pay attention to, because you have the power. You can make this healthy relationship. Probably not with the current partner you have. Probably not with the last partner that you have. Would be a pretty good guess. It's about working on yourself, taking the commitment to take your life back and do whatever it takes to create the life that you want. That is about take a college course. Like, think about, I didn't know how to have healthy relationships before. I had to take courses and learn. Get yourself a therapist, get yourself a coach, get yourself a team that's going to help you hold your feet to the fire, help you keep focus on what it is that you need to do to be in a healthy relationship, and then do everything that it takes for those experts to help you, give you the tools to make those decisions and make those changes. Because I couldn't have done it by myself. I needed to learn those lessons. I needed to get educated and then learn what specifically I needed to do. Now we get to do that with our clients, is we help them see where they need to tweak, what they need to change. And, people that are ready to put their money where their mouth is and actually commit to themselves, those people are the ones who in 6 months from now,
changes.
they're going to come back and be like, hey, my life is a complete metamorphosis from what it was. The people who are still talking about it and doing what I said earlier, they saying they want a healthy relationship. They say they want a life that's empowered, that is, living on purpose and has meaning, but they're doing everything but that. They're still making all the same decisions they've ever made to get them in this place. So for those people who would like to actually commit to that change, definitely reach out to me. You can actually send me a text message at 631-317-4027. If anybody wants to write that down for me, always appreciated. Again, that's
put that in the comments.
Yes, someone's always good about writing it for me. You can also send me a private message. Maybe you don't want to text right away. Text I just get right away so that it's easier for me to set an appointment and get you in. But let's talk about it. We have a bunch of different options for you if you're serious about making a change. And you can work with David and me, one of us. I mean, whatever is going to be the best for you to decide to make that change today and make, the next part of your life the best part of your life.
And that's really just it. I mean, we can all start to admit that where we are in life is a function of the decisions that we've made on a daily basis for our entire lives leading up to now. For me, I was stuck for a long time. I was paralyzed. Part of the problem is I thought I knew better. And one of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. Now, look, not everybody's ready to let their old self go. Like, you literally have to become a new person.
But I did a poll in our group, and it was like kind of like a joke, but there was, the other parts of it were serious. And it was basically, what's the hardest for you to say? And one of them was like Worcestershire sauce. Still probably hard for me to say. But one of the other ones was, people were the most afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
The biggest thing.
And for me, it was part of what kept me stuck because...
Me too.
Again, I thought I was pretty smart. I had rebelled against authority and my parents for a while, so you couldn't tell me shit. At the end of the day, I realized that things weren't changing in my life. And long story short, it wasn't until I realized that I had to get mentorship and coaching from people who had actually achieved what I wanted to achieve and got the guidance, the support, and the actual tools to craft a new mindset, to become a different person, to make a change, do something differently than what I had been doing. It wasn't up until that point that my life changed. And the great thing is, it changed dramatically. And the same can be true for you. We see it all the time. Even when people think, oh, I've been this way for so long. Can I really change? Oh, this is probably the best it's going to be. No, the reality is, if you have the courage to step up and say, okay, look, I may not know what's possible. I may not know exactly what needs to happen in order for me to get to this amazing place that Steph and Dave are talking about. But gosh darn it, I'm willing to try something different. I'm willing to have faith and try something different. And for those people, even if you've been in a rut for decades, you can transform your life and literally begin to create the life beyond your wildest dreams. I mean, one of the tips that I would give is that, and this is something that Steph and I each did, we specifically wrote down as an exercise before we met one another. We wrote down specifically what we wanted in our lives, particularly in terms of a committed romantic relationship. And that was an exercise that took us out of the repetitive nature of our thoughts, the unconscious patterns that kept us going to the same type of crappy relationships.
Yeah. But then we had to make a decision to start taking the steps to get us to that point.
That's it.
And that's where I think that's where you have the power, is that you can say, like, there's this crossroad, right here. And if I keep doing the same thing, I'm going to have the same results. I can try, and sometimes there might be that little glimmer of hope. Like, I don't know what it is. There might be something. What if I fail? All of those fears that are keeping you stuck, what if you just push through it a little bit and you say, I'm going to commit to myself and I'm going to actually do something different? Yeah.
And I mean, realistically, when is a decision that you've made based on fear ever even benefited you?
Yeah, very, very good point. So, takeaways. Definitely share your takeaways. I'm going to share again the phone number to send me a text message. I can get you in tomorrow. I have some availability tomorrow. I have a few spots.
And this is for people who just want to go deeper and see how we actually help people have these breakthroughs.
I have some spots on Monday as well. So, send a message to 631 317-4027. And if you're watching and you can write that down for me, I would really appreciate it. But just send a text message with your first and last name, and, we'll talk and we'll figure out when we could get you in. And we've got a lot of different options for you to get you started on your healing journey. So there's no reason to stay feeling isolated and trapped. All of these things we talked about is something that you deserve to have. And that's what we want.
100%.
Because realistically, how do we make the world a better place? Every single one of us has that opportunity. You becoming better, me becoming better, David becoming better, each one of us getting into our full purpose and really experiencing the life to its fullest, getting the juice out of life really starts creating a whole different world for us. So, if that's something that you want, definitely text message me and let's set up a time to talk. So thank you all so much for chatting. I see a few messages that are already coming in. So great job, everybody, for sending those messages in. And we will see you next week.
Till then, everybody.
Bye, everybody.